What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
Well, let's get this thing started. Yes, I'm alone. The other three guys are working, and you're stuck with me. How's that? I know we've done this before. Today we're going to have a pre-recorded session that we did the other day. I think it's self-explanatory, but please, 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 I will be live in the chat box the entire time, and I will see you at the end when they say goodbye. I'll come back on. So any discussion, any questions, just put in the chat box, and I'll be there to answer.
Well, okay, we're on.
Everybody shuffles in.
Yes. Hello, everyone, and hello again, Jeff. Gosh, you're down there with us now, rather than just the one of you that everyone saw a few minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm actually the only.
Here's the question, though: which one is the real Jeff, and which one's the AI?
And is he wearing the same clothes?
Yes. Are you going to wear the same clothes, Jeff? Are you wearing the same clothes? How is future Jeff? I want to know.
Yeah, even if it's only a couple of days.
What is the future like for us, Jeff?
I'll let you know, because apparently the groundhog saw his shadow, which is not good news, right?
Oh, yeah, I knew he would.
Winner.
So today in real life is really February the 2nd. Jeff has already told you that this is a pre-recorded episode of Every Other Wednesday, and he's coming to you on what's the date? Mike, have you got something that'll tell us what the date is that everybody is seeing on Wednesday, February 4th, 2026? Let's go ahead and get started. Sanjay, tell us about you.
Happen? Wait, before that, why does this happen? Because 3 people are working on Wednesday. 1 is not. So just wanted to point that out.
Can we guess which one isn't working?
Sorry, technically Mike isn't working. He's doing community service, but
before you start, Sanjay, I have a question for everybody. Richard forgot me, but that's okay. In the chat box, would you put what do you think Gen Z wants out of a job? Gen Z is our newest generation. They're like 14 to 29 years old, coming into the workplace. What are they looking for in a job?
And no smart aleck answers like when Jeff just said, what are they looking to get out of a job? We don't want to hear anybody say they're just looking to get out of a job, because that's not nice, and it's probably not true either. But
and I should mention that I will be monitoring the chat box live. So, all right, go ahead, Sanjay. Who are you?
Well, we usually pick a question that kind of gives a bit of a teaser as to what we're going to talk about, and that sort of Gen Z topic is going to be, front and central. And I don't want to, be insulting towards my 3 co-hosts, but clearly, being of the 14 to 29 demographic myself, I will be the expert today, whereas the other 3 may be more out of.
You're at least the father of someone in that age group.
Listen, I'm not judging. I'm just pointing out.
How long can you play that card is what I want to say.
As long as it takes.
Less and less as every year.
Sanjay, tell us who you are. We're losing viewers.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're losing daylight. My name is Sanjay Nath. I am a speaker and author based in Oakville, Ontario, which is just outside of Toronto. And I work with groups to help them focus on leadership to improve their performance. I'll throw it over to Michael Kerr.
Hey, Michael Kerr here from Canmore, Alberta, in the spectacular Canadian Rockies. I speak and write about workplace culture. My latest book is Small Moments, Big Outcomes. Today, February 4th, by the way, is official Thank Your Mailman Day, or Letter Carrier Day.
We haven't seen him in Pittsburgh. We haven't seen him in Pittsburgh for a week.
Neutral. No. Why? How come?
He can't get on our sidewalks or our steps.
Oh, because of the snow.
And you haven't been in Pittsburgh in a week.
And wait, you got to hear this. But it's also Liberace Day.
Oh.
Tomorrow is official Shower with a Friend Day. So everyone planned accordingly. And Friday, Work Naked Day. Yep. I just report them, folks. Work Naked Day. Richard, over to you.
Well, thank you. I'm Richard Haddon, and I'm a speaker and author. I wrote Contented Cows Still Give Better Milk. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and that's where I am. And I talk about leadership and employee engagement and recruiting and retention. Yes, that is still relevant. And look forward to hearing from the rest of you.
Like me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And last but not least.
Yeah, really. Thanks for sending it over to me, Richard. I'm Jeff Tobe, and I am cold, as you can tell by what I'm wearing. I'm home after 7 weeks in sunshine, and that's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where The snow is piled so high. I haven't seen it this high since I've lived here in 30 years. I speak about customer experience, leadership as well, and employee engagement. And I am excited about today's show. Richard, tell us about it.
All right. So, we asked the question in the chat a little bit, and we want to make sure that you're answering those questions. What do you think the members of the youngest working generation, what do they want in a job? What do they look for in a job? And I think probably what we're going to get, I don't know, because it's 2 days from now, is going to be, it might be a little disparaging of the younger generation. We see that typically people in a different generation are disparaging of people in another generation, whether it's older generation or younger generation, when it comes to work and work ethic. And so we're going to talk a little bit about today about some things that some findings have come up with on that. But one thing that I wanted,
and let me mention, not specifically Gen Z, specifically.
Yeah, Gen Z, the youngest cohort in the workplace.
That's not what we're going to limit our discussion to, are we?
No,
or are we?
No, we're not.
Okay.
We're not.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I do want to mention that I read I'm glad with I'm happy for this topic. I read a study that was done by Handshake. It's a blog, but they surveyed 1,700 Gen Zs, and I was shocked to find out that job security was #1 and high pay was #4 or 5. So that's switched, I think, from the generation before them.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen things that have it in, those two, and maybe in a little bit different order, but those still rank up pretty close to the top.
Yeah.
But one thing that we often hear about the youngest workers, especially we hear it more and more today, I think, is that nobody wants to work anymore. I mean, have you heard that one? Have you heard that one? Well, I've never really believed that, but there's a guy, and he's actually a Canadian researcher named Paul Ferry, who did some research a couple of years ago, and he kind of got tired of hearing this old trope of that young people don't want to work anymore. And so he went back and he looked at newspapers and magazines for more than 150 years in both the US and Canada. And he found that for a 130-year period, every single year, there was a strong theme in magazines and newspapers that said that young people don't want to work anymore. I have a few examples that I can show you if you would like to see them. So does everyone see that?
Yes.
So, I mean, even as early as 1894, and then, in 1922, nobody wants to work anymore. 1940, the trouble is everybody's on relief. Nobody wants to work anymore. 1999, nobody wants to work anymore. 2014, what's happened to America? Nobody wants to work anymore. My favorite one is 2022. Everybody saw during this COVID thing that they don't have to work anymore. They still get paid. I tell you, it's all going to hell.
In a handbasket.
Yeah. And
yeah,
so
I was gonna bring that up, Richard. So I'm so glad you had that slide.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we just have to acknowledge we've always said that, it's always seemed that way. And so if that's true, why does it seem that way? And yet, you look around and things have gotten done. Things have gotten done since 1894. We've somehow built stuff and done stuff, and yet nobody wants to work. So I think we have to acknowledge that there's a little bit of a bias in there.
What I hear more from people isn't so much that trope of they don't want to work. It's more that, yes, they're coming into work, but they have an outsized sense of entitlement like never before. So you do hear those, certainly anecdotes. And I hear it all the time from clients where, they think in 3 months they should be promoted. Those are the kind of things I hear all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I've been here 3 months.
It's time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's time. Right?
Yeah. That's interesting that you bring up the word, and then I'm going to shut up because I've been talking too much, but just real quickly. I hear the word entitlement a lot. So there's something that I do sometimes in a workshop, and I'm not a generational speaker, but I do have one workshop that has a section on the generations. And just one exercise I ask people to do, I say, get out a little, I give them Post-it notes, and I say, write one word that you associate with each of these 4 generations. And we do boomers and millennials and Gen X and Gen Z. And then they put them on the wall, and they're all in different colors and everything. And very often, not every time, but more than half the time, the one word that shows up under all 4 columns is entitled.
Yeah.
And these are generally multi-generational groups. And so we see that everybody thinks that everybody else feels entitled. Again, I don't know what to make of that, but it is something that I've seen.
Well, what you
Yeah.
make of it is they're human and we have everything. We are
Yeah.
all entitled in a certain area. And if we look
Mhm.
only at that area, we see entitlement. But we're also
Yeah.
all hardworking and we're also all lazy. And we're also like, I mean, we're multifaceted beings. And
Yeah, that's a good way to
and
look
if,
at it.
and if someone always catches us at the end of the day, say I've done a 12-hour shift, manual labor, I come home sweating, I jump in the shower, and then I come and I sit on the sofa and I watch Netflix. And every day my neighbor passes me at that exact same time where I'm sitting in my lazy boy watching Netflix. Their perception is, what a lazy bum, right? They didn't catch the other
Yeah.
12 hours. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we have these limited snapshots, and like human beings, we're going to extrapolate moving forward and make a generalization. And generally, the generalizations are wrong.
Yeah.
So I want to
I've
jump on
always
that.
said, oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I put my hand up, Jeff, which I've never done before here.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to jump in. Sorry, I will pass it to you, Jeff. I just
Okay.
wanted to jump on what Sanjay said because I do come up from a little bit of this bias that I think we put way too much weight on the different generations. That
Oh, I do too.
people
I
are
do
people
too.
are people, humans are humans are humans, and the stuff we should be doing for 25-year-olds should be the same stuff we're doing for 65-year-olds. And all the great stuff we talk about in every other Wednesday in terms of culture and leadership. It's the stuff we should be doing with humans in general. In fact, there's a book I read, it's a fairly recent book, 2021, by Bobby Duffy, The Generation Myth.
Mhm.
Why when you were born matters less than you think.
Yeah.
And he argues that so much of the data around this generational stuff is not terribly accurate, that there's all sorts of errors with it and all sorts of silly nonsense that gets spoken about largely by speakers
Yes.
when it
yes.
comes to this topic
Yeah.
of the different generations.
I've seen, well, one more thing, Jeff. I've seen so many generational speakers get up and just trash every generation. And I'm thinking, they can't all be that bad. Jeff,
No.
what were you going to say, please?
I lost my train of thought. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, typical boomer. Yeah, just can't focus.
Here's the thing. I think we're looking at it wrong. When we're talking about generations, I think it is about generations. And let me explain why. I think that we can still look at generations and what they want from a job, different than what our impression is of generations.
Yeah.
What other generations think of other generations. And so, like in that survey that I read, and I wrote these down, I'm looking at it. Number two of 1,700 Gen Zs was location. 74% were more likely to apply for a job that's in a desired location. 69% say finding a job near family was of low priority, and 81% want to work in person. So that's what they want. They interviewed them, not everybody else.
What do we think about them? Yeah.
Not me as a speaker saying, here's what my impression is of each generation. And so I think we can look at it generationally, but it's what do they want? What do they need from a job? And it's not just Gen Z. If you ask, Gen Y, what are you looking for in a job? It's going to be different, but we can still at least have some indicator of age, an age group, I think.
For sure. Yeah. And I didn't mean to say that there isn't any good data or stuff we should be aware of.
Yeah,
Sanjay, I see that hand.
Sanjay has a hand up.
Yeah, but like, so I'm going to try to bridge the gap here between Michael and Jeff, one being a veteran and the other being a boomer. Anyway, so, but here's, what you said, Michael, earlier. You said the idea is we should treat a 75-year-old like we treat a 25-year-old. And I 100% agree with that. But where I think it gets challenging is it's this, remember the old golden rule versus the platinum rule. The golden rule, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. And the platinum rule being do unto others as they would do unto themselves. So in one case, here's the idea. Everyone wants, we've talked about this ad nauseum on EOW. People want a sense of belonging. People want to feel like something bigger than themselves. They want to feel trusted. They want to feel safe. They want blah, 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 all that stuff they want. But what changes from individual to individual and en masse from group to group or demographic to demographic, is how they feel safe. See, at one generation, feeling safe was all about safety. I need a job for the next 35 years. I don't care. I'll show up. I'll smile. Give me cancer. I'll lose a few fingers. No big deal. Just give me the job. And
Yeah.
that's how they felt safe. Now we are living in a different set of values, but people still want to see it feel safe, but how it manifests itself changes. So now it's a matter of, I want a high level of DEI,
Autonomy.
I want inclusion, and I want social awareness and corporate social responsibility. And that's what makes me feel safe. And so it's not so much that it changes from generation to generation. I think it changes from person to person. But as a rule, we kind of classify it because people go through a lot of similar experiences. You look at 9/11. 9/11 shaped the way a lot of people think. So if you were at a certain age during that experience, you think slightly differently than someone who is either older or younger, who went through financial crisis, who went through COVID, who went through whatever. So I think, as much as I hate to say it, you're both right. And that is, we do need to be aware of, we have to treat people at the core values and help them grow. But it changes, and the challenges are unique from group to group, from demographic to demographic, and from person to person.
And Sanjay, to jump on the word how, I like that you said that, because that I totally agree with that. And I think what is different as leaders in our organizations, how we achieve those goals might be different.
Might be,
depending on the different generations, might be, right?
And I think it's wise for leaders to pay attention to what works today as opposed to what might have worked 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago. Because the context is different. Even though I think what we're all saying is everyone wants the same thing from generation to generation, but the context is different. So how we provide that want, whether it be to feel safe or whatever, is going to be different. And some would say evolved over the years.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's a difference too between classifying everyone based on their cohort and also just recognizing the fact that young workers are, and wait for this is a very deep thought, they're young. So just with that, regardless of how their generation has been shaped by when they were born, world events, all that stuff, they're young. And so we do have to consider things when we're leading younger employees, like they don't have the experience that a 55-year-old employee has. Both, and there's good about that and there's bad about that, right?
Yeah.
But also, maybe they do need maybe more mentoring. They do need perhaps more consistent, regular feedback. And we can talk about what this last survey we're referencing to talks about that. So just the fact that they are more inexperienced in our workplace means we perhaps need to communicate in different ways, lead in different ways.
One thing that I've often said just in talking about this is, I used to be a millennial.
What?
We all did, in other words, we used to all be in our 20s. We used to all be in our 30s. And I think there is some consistency, regardless of what generation you're in terms of the age that you happen to be at a particular time, that you have different needs and different wants and so forth. We know that people in general are delaying family, developing a family now. And so, it used to be people in their 20s, you needed to deal with that aspect of their lives, and now that's probably waiting till 30s and 40s, and some people choosing not to add to their families at all. So I think those are some just sociological things that we have to pay attention to. Yeah. But let's look at what this survey is saying.
Yeah,
Jeff, what are some of the things that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, hold on. Let's give it a high level so people know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Oh, did you want to talk to that, Jeff? You were trying
I was going to say what we focused on was an article that was about a survey that was done by CNBC, specifically called the Generation Lab Survey, and you can look this up. But one of the things that struck me, and let's talk about the elephant in the room, because we don't care, and that is that the majority of younger workers want DEI programs, that they shouldn't be politicized, but that they found that they think that they should be maintained by all corporations. And I thought that was interesting because it has become politicized in the States anyway.
It has, yeah.
As everybody knows. But it's become a bad word. Like I find that with my corporate clients, we can't even talk about DEI anymore. And I think that's wrong. I think the idea should be there. So don't call it diversity, equity, whatever. Think of something else. But the idea that that we're being inclusive, we're being we're creating psychologically safe zones. All those things that go with DEI haven't gone away. So
Right.
I was kind of surprised that younger workers are saying that as well.
Yeah, and I think we have to look at that. If that, again, to the degree that you put stock in this this study, and it seems to be valid, is that the workers themselves are saying, hey, don't negate that, don't disregard that concept. I had one of the most fascinating conversations I can remember in a long time with a guy at a client. I was doing some training in a client. This guy was probably late 30s, early 40s, and he was in a supervisory role. And we were talking about DEI. And he said, I got a problem with DEI. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. He said, first of all, I have no problem with diversity. People are diverse. And he said, just look around this room. You can see there's diversity. And even beyond that, which you can see, there's a great deal of diversity. He said, equity. Equity to me means giving everyone the same opportunities. How could you argue with that? People should have the same opportunities. And inclusion, of course. Why would you not include someone who has talent and who can bring value to the organization? He said, I am in favor of all of that, but I hate DEI. And, he really, and what he was saying was just exactly what I think this is saying. Why do we have to put a label on it and put it in a box and say it's this, and that? Because then it does get a connotation, whether it's negative or positive. Right now, it has a negative one. And I've thought more and more about what he said, and that to me probably is the way to go.
Yeah.
But
well, when it gets politicized and it becomes something is mandated, can't exist anymore. That's when it gets so frustrating because it's really saying that the things we've talked about here for how many shows, 130 shows, is really negated about all these things. I won't even get back into it, but it's frustrating to me. And we should be, not ignoring. If you're a government, if you work for the American government, I totally understand that that's the edict that's come down. But, as a private corporation, we should figure out how we're still going to include the things that were included in DEI.
Right now, the term is DEI, right? You go back a few years, we used to call it multiculturalism or racism. In fact,
or just diversity.
Diversity was another one. Yeah. I remember doing an event in the late 90s, and it was called the Last Conference on Racism or something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but and the premise behind it, which I thought was kind of cool, was they said, as long as we keep making it an issue and putting a label on it, it's a thing. So let's get it done. And we don't have a conference on, we're going to segregate you based on your personal favorite flavor of ice cream. It's just a thing. You like strawberry, you like vanilla, good, go for it. And that was the idea, was let's stop talking about it. Let's just do it. And I think that's kind of what you're saying this guy was doing, was we don't need to label it, just do it. By the way, a little bee in my bonnet, the equity piece, depending on how it's done, can bug me, because equity to me is different from fairness. I have 3 sons. When one was, and one, they're all 2 years apart, but when one is 2 and one is 6, you don't feed them the same. Right. Equity is, you give them the same amount of food because that's equal. But no, it's about fair. Anyways, but that's
well, I have seen what resounds with me as a good definition of equity, and that is not that you treat everyone the same, but that everyone has access to the same opportunities, which I feel better about that. I also always have to acknowledge that, I mean, you look at here and you will not see a great deal of visual diversity among us. And some people might say, well, Richard, how can you talk about diversity? And I acknowledge that. So, I know what my life path has been, and I know that other people have had very different experiences than I have. I just acknowledge that, but I don't know what to do with it.
You know what, though? I think that's a bit of crap, because you're just looking at it from the one lens, which is from looks, and it's not even that, because we have age diversity.
I know, I'm just sensitive to what others might say. I want to be sensitive to say we all
of us are clearly better looking than. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, and we're getting slightly off topic.
Yes,
I think
yes.
here. So let's get
So
back.
let's go back to it quickly,
thing,
but Mike,
but just to you know, this can be a very sensitive topic, and I think the issue here too, kind of leapfrogging on what Sanjay said, is we do have to be aware that there is systemic racism still in our countries, in most countries, in most cultures. There is systemic biases. We know there are still studies that talk about hiring biases that happen based on people's names and what happens when you just change those names. So there are serious issues out there, and we just have to be careful that this whole political climate we're in, where it has become a negative, and even just talking about it has been frowned upon, that we don't lose sight that for a lot of people this is still a serious issue.
Yep. Yeah, and that's part of what I was saying, I think. Yeah.
And just one last issue. I commissioned someone to do this on just as the idea of equal versus fair. And you've probably seen something similar, but like I said, I actually hired an artist to do that, right?
Right.
Oh, did you just put something on the screen? I see. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm done here.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Jeff. What else does this study report?
The other thing that struck me was how worried younger workers are about the economic
about the economy. Yeah,
the economy and recession risk and potential. You know, they're looking at the impact on job prospects, like not even on the job they have, right? And so I don't blame them. Again, back to politics, and we're walking a thin line. I know that. But and I'm sure Carol will have something to say about that. But let's look at the economic outlook. You know, it's so unstable in the States. I'm curious. I don't know about Canada. What's it like there economically? You know, I guess we're summarizing the country, but for young people, that would be to the two Canadians.
Yeah. Sanjay,
well,
I mean, given what Alberta's doing, Mike might not be Canadian for much
might
longer.
Have a different.
Anyways, that's again.
I mean, I think I think it's the uncertainty that's creating the instability.
Yeah.
What's actually happening in the U.S. economy is not all that bad. Prices are out of control, but other than that, you know, the U.S. economy is still sustaining pretty well. And the job market, even though we keep hearing about, oh, hiring has tanked. No, hiring has not tanked. It has slowed. There's a difference. And so I think we have to keep an eye on what is really happening. But part of that reality is that uncertainty is creating just a great deal of anxiety, and it does change people's behavior, and they're less likely to look at new opportunities and things like that. But
and
you, Jeff, I found that very interesting that in this study there was that high a level of concern from younger people in the workforce.
One thing I can say, certainly in my town of Canmore, we're a very expensive place to live. So affordability is a huge issue for the younger generation.
Yeah.
And so I can't tell you the number of young people that I know that are working 3 jobs, like not 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They're leaving their 8-hour shift to go to their next job.
Yeah.
And that is certainly a huge factor in a lot of places.
Yeah. Well, this survey, if you remember, tied in the top 10 worst companies.
This is the part
that was fascinating.
That was the most fascinating.
And just in terms of reputation, this is not necessarily I've had an experience working there, but this is just the overall reputation of the company.
If we mention any names, it's just their impression, the younger impression. That we are not saying this is a fact.
And I want to also point this out too. This survey was 18,000 young people. So it's a fairly large sample size. This is not people off the street.
Well, here, let me put it on the screen.
Okay, I was going to do that. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, let me see.
Look at us using screen share today.
I know.
Never shared so
much. Boomers and Gen X using screen share.
What?
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah,
don't say a name, guys. We could get sued. so we'll let people just read it. But
Just
Oh,
read
for
those,
goodness
yeah.
sakes. Oh, for goodness sakes. This is public information. Tesla's at the top. Tesla sucks, according to these young folks, as
Yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to work.
Number-
What
number-
fascinates me about this is seeing companies like Amazon and Meta at the top, which you would think
With
perhaps
unfavorable reputations. Yeah.
yeah, with unfavorable reputation.
I have a question though.
But-
Didn't you
but-
recognize all but one on this list?
Yes, Palantir. Yeah.
No, Palantir. No. Palantir is like
It's an AI
big
company.
government. I own Palantir stock. That's why I'm very familiar with it.
Oh, okay.
But what surprised me was
Can I
when I
finish my
was that
thought?
age. Say that again.
Can I finish
Please.
my thought?
Please.
Oh no.
You
I
gotta
was in
jump in. Are
mid-sentence.
you new
I was-
here?
I was in mid-flight, for God's sakes. You boomers are so.
This is
friggin'
what
rude.
happens when all four of us are here.
I know. No, what fascinates me is that companies like Amazon and Meta, which you would kind of maybe think could be perceived as cool companies, as hip companies, as big, dynamic, powerful companies,
Mhm.
and yet, what this speaks to me about what I see in this, and I see this in lots of other research too, is that one difference I do, and I hope this is a difference with Gen Z and the younger generation, is that they are far more drawn to companies that have a strong sense of purpose, that are
Mhm.
doing meaningful work in the world, that have good corporate values, that are
Yeah.
good corporate citizens.
Let me add one more, and also have strong leaders, because the
Yeah,
top ones,
sure,
in
yeah.
this, the worst ones are leaders we can name, right?
Yeah.
Who are billionaires,
And they
also
don't have great
reputation. So
popularity.
yeah, it's that leadership too.
But
Yeah. I mean, look, you
but
you saw this, didn't you? I know it's.
notice that.
Can I show the
Google and
picture of the car?
Microsoft
Here we
aren't
go.
there.
No,
Yeah.
See, I just think that's iconic, and I've seen that very thing. This and this.
In Hawaii, it says purchase before Elon.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen those.
yeah,
Yeah.
we see that everywhere here.
Yeah.
yeah. But
All right,
again,
pardon me for making you.
what to me-
Okay, there we go.
to me, what surprised me about this was, again, all these are major companies, right? Huge. They're across sectors, right? You got packaged goods, you got technology, you got McDonald's, you got everything. But it's also not just like you got Meta and Amazon, but you don't have Microsoft and Google.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so people are being rather discerning, and to be able to do that, I would think that, like, if to your point, there's something that's rubbing the wrong way, whether it's the values of the organization, their corporate social responsibility, it's not just random. There's much more there. And when I was that age, I would have been like, oh my goodness, these are the meccas of companies. You want to be, you're set. You could climb the corporate ladder in any one of these things. It'd be amazing. And people are like, yeah, meh, not for me.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind.
So
Yeah.
I would love I would love it if they had surveyed the opposite question.
Yeah, and say what has the really
brands,
great
what companies do you
reputation.
most admire and
Yeah.
would love to work for?
You know what?
dream
There
job.
was a company that did something similar, and I believe EOW came at the top.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, Fortune does every year comes out with the most
not being
admired companies
ignored,
list, but
Sanjay.
that's not necessarily by generation.
Right.
Something else that this study turned up that I found slightly interesting, although I'm seeing this now, and that is that a lot of younger people are quite happy to work in the office part of the time, as opposed to maybe people think that younger workers all want to work remotely. My experience and what I've seen in other things, and now it's backed up by this, is that many younger workers are quite happy to work in the office, probably not all the time. They would like to have some flexibility. They
That's
want
the
to have
key.
some options. They don't want to be in there 5 days a week, but
Survey
they
said-
don't
survey
necessarily
said-
need to be working from home 5 days a week either.
Survey said 3 days a week is ideal.
Yeah.
To be in the
Most of them
office.
voted for three or four, right?
Yeah.
And Richard, you said the key word. I think it's flexibility.
Yeah,
Right.
it's the flexibility. I don't think it's so much about working from home as it is the flexibility.
Yeah.
Now, Jeff, you have working adult children in the same age range as mine. My daughter particularly loves to go into her office and work a few days a week, but don't make me go every day. So
Yes, my daughters-
she
my
gets
daughters-
lonely if she's working from home every day.
My daughters won't work in an office.
They won't work in an office. I'll say,
No,
and,
they
and
work
mine
for themselves.
loves
Both of them kind of work
having both of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I remember actually, Jeff, when you and I first met, so we're going back 25, 30 years ago, you loved the idea of having an office to go to.
yeah. I had a staff.
You were a big fan of it. Now you don't do it as much. Is it more out of logistics or out of preference? Like, has your desire changed?
It became, yeah, first of all, it became inconvenient because I moved, 10 miles away from where my office was. But secondly, it was more that I realized that we came into an age, if you think back that far, and we came into the age where virtual help was a thing, right? But I had a full-time staff member. I had 2 part-time people.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was the way to go. I wanted to build a team. Today, oh man, I wouldn't want that if you paid me to do it.
No, you couldn't pry me out of here with a crowbar.
Yeah.
So what about this idea of loyalty? Because I'm always fascinated by how the loyalty contract has changed in the world of work over the last couple of decades.
Well, now they're saying you got to earn my loyalty.
Yeah, this is what this is saying.
I'm going to work for you.
That people will be, that Gen Z will be loyal, but you've got to earn it. Only 7% say that kind of under normal circumstances that they would be committed to staying with the company for the long haul. But you throw in the promise of, and I think it has to be a credible promise of career advancement opportunities, and that 7% goes up to 46% of people saying, yeah, if that's the case, I'd be willing to stay a good bit longer.
I think we all worked for corporations at one time in our lives. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to sign a non-compete? Because I did when I started my job. And nowadays, there's no way that they could get these young people to do that because they're not committing long-term.
Long
going
enough.
to be there, not for a lifetime, but for a long time.
Yeah. Although another thing that this is not part of this article, but something that I saw recently was that there is another myth around young people, and that in terms of job hopping. People thinking that Gen Z is job hopping at a much faster rate than previous generations of young people. The data show that it's absolutely not the same, not the case, that young people have always had much lower job tenures, and it has actually stayed about the same for the last 40 years. It is the lowest. The Gen Z is the lowest of the 4 or 5 generations in the workplace, but it has always been, they've always been at about that same 2.5 to 3 year period before they move on average, since the 1980s.
Yeah, I think back to your central point of loyalty too. I first of all, do we all agree that that's a good thing? Like that's the way it should be, that loyalty should be earned.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will also say, and this is, others here have said this just today. That's not always the way it was. Sometimes loyalty was just given.
For sure, it was
Yeah.
You're
One, we have a government who thinks that if you're not loyal, but 2, going back to my dad, 50 years ago, he just expected his employees to be loyal to.
Yeah. But there was also loyalty in return. And of course, that's, we talked on a few shows ago about the change in the psychological contract.
Yeah.
That it used to be, I will pay for your time and your talent, and you'll stay, and we'll have a good long life together. Today it is, I'll pay for your time and talent until I no longer need it, and the employee is saying, fine, I'll sell you my time and my talent until I can find a better deal.
Right.
That's very different from how it was in my father's generation, and even in my generation as I was beginning in the world of work.
I suspect, and I would like to think this too, that the terms of loyalty are changing with the younger generation, that they are probably, I suspect, more loyal to their team than necessarily to the organization, that they are more loyal to a company that is seen as having high values and is a good corporate citizen, that they're loyal to that mission, they're loyal to that vision as opposed to the company. And that if we want to retain these young employees, that it's not necessarily just about career mobility and moving up the chain, but about them being given a real voice in the workplace, being asked for their ideas, asked for their input, feeling like they have autonomy and control over their destiny.
Yeah.
Sanjay, I think the last thing.
I have a question for Sanjay very quickly on the exact same thing. you've got a son who is now of college age, starting to or university age, as you would say.
Older than me now, yes.
Yeah, and has he started talking about prospects, jobs, things like that? Is it too soon? I'm curious what he's interested in and looking for.
So yes-ish. We want to digress. So my kid started off, went to school in the first week. He was a film major, and he called me and he said, "Dad, people are making fun of me for being a film major." And I said, "What did you expect?" So in the first week, he changed his major. He decided to do double majors. Now in doubling business and film.
Oh, good.
And I
He's a smart guy. Where did he get that from?
Absolutely. And the thing is, I was there trying to be supportive, and film, there's nothing wrong with film, but limited options.
Yeah.
Right. Now all of a sudden with the business and film marketing, and that's what he's like, he's licking his chops at, going, oh, I actually see him because he's very bubbly personality. He's very outgoing. He'd be fantastic in real estate, and having a film background to showcase the properties in a different, unique way, I think he would do sell there. But again, there's a lot of options in terms of something specific. He's like, "Dad, can you hook me up with an internship?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I need friends." But we've started to have that conversation, but it's not serious enough to really go deep.
We should talk offline. I met a young man last week who is actually graduated from Berkeley University in film and second major business, and he is actually an agent to some names you would know. So,
that's a good combination.
Business, so.
Excellent. Yeah.
I mean, so all that said,
I
guess I'm asking: are the young people today, are they more or less concerned about getting that job when they graduate than we were? Because I know it was all about get out. When I was
not until third and fourth year. First year, you're head so firmly up your own butt that you have no idea. You're just trying to get through. So no, we haven't had that conversation. Nothing serious yet.
Okay.
Hey, as the official timekeeper here,
I was
we have
looking.
You have time for one more little topic. What, Jeff?
Don't forget my few minutes before.
I know that's what I'm allowing for here.
Okay.
No, just the last thing I wanted to bring up from this study, CNBC, was about feedback. That younger generations want to work, they want to get ahead, and they want feedback.
Yes, but they want it from multiple sources.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's like, okay, you tell me what you think. All right, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. Let me hear it from this person, and I'll kind of merge this together. But I have heard people say that young people want too much feedback and they want it too frequently. Again, if we ask the young people, as they did in this survey, generally about a third say they want some feedback about once a month. And some say they want it once a week, and only about 5% say they want it, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're hedging their bets. It's the old, it's an old comic strip I remember from years ago, and the kid goes, "Well, my mom said I can't come to your house for dinner, but give me a second, let me ask my dad."
Yeah.
So if this guy's telling me I'm doing it wrong, well, will she tell me I'm doing it right?
Yeah. It also said that most seem to want that feedback face to face, and I can relate to that. And I just think it's interesting. We think that all young people want to do everything on their phones, and maybe that's not always the case.
Yeah. And that triangulation, I think, is actually very, very powerful. Is getting it from multiple sources, or having two versions, two perspectives of the same action can really help form it, either to develop it more, or to curb it, or to change it, or to stop it.
Yeah. So now we have time.
Oh, there's nothing like spending 45 minutes talking about the younger generation to make me keenly aware that I'm not in it.
Right. Nor do you want to be anymore.
No, you're right. Yeah.
But you used to be, and that's what matters.
Hey, listen, I'm okay with going to bed at 8 o'clock, dinner at 4, and it's all good.
Yeah, I plan on having dinner with Richard next week in person, and
that's right.
He's going to want to go at 4:30 in the afternoon.
No,
he's much older.
I will. We'll take pictures and we'll share with our next EOW audience. Richard and Jeff in person having dinner.
Exactly.
So anyway, we're about to turn you back over to February 4th, Jeff.
Yes.
Who's going to wrap all of this up? But just very quickly, if today is February, if we're pretending that today is February 4th, we will be back again on February the 18th.
Live.
Live, yes, yes, we will all be live, or whoever will be there will be live. I'll be there, and and it is February the 18th, and the reason I know that is because we all get together when
Every
other Wednesday.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, Jeff. Take
Bye
it
now.
out.
Thank you all.
See you in
Bye.
a minute.
Bye.
And there you have it, another Every Other Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And please join us in 2 weeks on the 18th of the month. I do believe we have a guest, but I'll just tease you with that. Thank you all so much for being here. We always appreciate your participation. Have a great couple of weeks. See you in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.